Hello, everyone. When Mother Nature roars in anger, humans can do nothing but stand in horror, powerless against the unimaginable destructive force. Whether it's a storm, flood, or volcanic eruption, these events serve as stark reminders of our vulnerability before nature. But why does nature lash out like this? Do we truly understand the immense power at play? Or do we continue to challenge fate, testing its limits? After days of heavy rain, the soil and rocks on the hillside in Mai absorbed the water and grew unstable. While a group of people was clearing the road to make way, a massive block of earth and rocks suddenly collapsed, sending dust and debris into the air. Fortunately, all 6 managed to flee in the nick of time. A powerful earthquake shook the ground, and within moments, a massive tsunami roared in, sweeping everything in its path through the streets of Japan. Buildings collapsed, and the murky waters flooded in like a nightmare in broad daylight. The sea erupted in fury, with massive waves crashing against the ship's bow as if trying to drown everything. The vessel rocked violently in the ocean's white-capped fury. A giant wave crashes against the shores of Biarritz, France, creating a towering column of water that shoots up into the sky. Passers-by, unaware of the power of nature, hurriedly flee from the scene. This moment is not only breathtaking, but also dangerous, a stark reminder of the ferocity of the sea. This image shows a horrifying sight of a violent flood rushing through a residential area, carrying debris and threatening everything in its path. The swirling waters are like an uncontrollable monster, swallowing streets and sweeping away vehicles. Could this be the aftermath of prolonged rainfall, or a sign of an even more severe natural disaster? The power of an avalanche is truly unbelievable. In the blink of an eye, a massive block of snow crashes down, sweeping away everything in its path. Nothing can stop this destructive force when nature unleashes its fury. Can you imagine the feeling of standing in front of a giant wall of snow rushing down at terrifying speed? This video captures a terrifying moment when a raging flood pours down from above, carrying with it mud, debris, and wreckage. A small house with a red-tiled roof appears to be surrounded by the fierce waters, showcasing the terrifying might of nature when it strikes. The video captures a terrifying moment as a violent tornado sweeps through an urban area, creating a massive dust column behind a skyscraper. The whirlwind carries with it a destructive power, tearing through everything in its path. Trees are uprooted, rain and wind are fierce, and the scene of devastation sends a chilling feeling to those who witness it. A horrifying moment unfolds when a ferocious flood pours down into a residential area, bringing with it mud, debris, and unstoppable destruction. The floodwaters rise rapidly, surging with incredible force, sweeping away everything in its wake. This image depicts the terrifying confrontation between humanity and nature. Small figures of people are seen frantically fleeing, trying to escape the raging floodwaters rushing toward them from behind. The muddy, violent water roars like a giant monster, swallowing everything in its path. In the face of such devastating force, humanity appears powerless and frail. The floodwaters, full of rage and fury, surge uncontrollably, sweeping everything in their path. They resemble a gigantic monster, devouring roads, homes, and even the fragile hopes of humanity. The once peaceful neighborhood is now nothing but a chaotic sea of water, mud, and debris floating aimlessly. Prolonged heavy rainfall submerged the city of Zhengzhou in a sea of water, turning cars into floating wrecks in the streets. The damage was recorded as severe. If you love witnessing breathtaking moments of nature, don't forget to hit subscribe so you won't miss the next video. The furious floodwaters sweep everything away in their path. Small figures cling desperately to makeshift rafts, struggling against the merciless currents. Around them, trash and debris float, creating a terrifying scene of chaos. The angry floodwaters roar, ripping apart the bridge as though it were a mere toy. On the higher rooftops, residents look down in despair at the raging floodwaters that consume everything in their way. The colossal floodwaters surge like an uncontrollable monster, tearing apart the embankments and threatening to swallow the power station whole. Sparks of electricity flash in the murky water, signaling an impending disaster. The of nature is breaking all limits, turning solid structures into rubble in the blink of an eye. The brave vehicle charges through the black floodwaters, but can it truly defeat nature's wrath? The powerful current drags along mud and boulders, creating a deadly path right in the heart of the neighborhood. A single misstep, and the entire vehicle could be submerged in an instant. Tiny figures stand at the edge of disaster, watching the fury of nature unfold. The floodwaters drag boulders, flattening everything in its path, transforming the landscape into a battlefield of chaos. Are they witnessing the aftermath of a terrifying landslide? The flood strikes unexpectedly with terrifying force, submerging the road in a sea of murky water. A car is trapped in the swirling current, struggling to survive against nature's viciousness. In an instant, the floodwaters sweep the car away as if it were a mere toy, drowning it in the muddy whirlpool. Nothing can halt the fury of nature. The murky floodwaters rush forward at an incredible speed, devouring everything in their path. Roads vanish, walls collapse. Trees are uprooted, and vehicles are swept away like fallen leaves in the merciless current. Within just 10 minutes, the sky over Sharjah darkened, thick clouds swirling as the winds howled, carrying a blinding sandstorm. The rain poured down in torrents, flooding the streets, with lightning striking repeatedly. Trees were uprooted, vehicles swerved uncontrollably, and panic gripped the people who scrambled to find shelter in the face of the fierce storm. Could this be a sign of even harsher storms on the horizon? The floodwaters raged fiercely, mercilessly sweeping everything in their path. Amidst the powerful current, a man struggled desperately, clinging to anything that could save his life. But the flow was too strong, pulling him farther away, submerging him in the murky waters. The surrounding people screamed in terror, helplessly calling for help. The flood arrived like a furious rage from nature, submerging everything in a sea of muddy water. The raging current swept away homes, trees, vehicles, and even people, leaving no time for anyone to react. Desperate cries echoed through the chaos as the flood relentlessly destroyed everything in its path. Kilis, a city in southern Turkey near the Syrian border, was hit by a powerful earthquake on February 6, 2023. This earthquake severely impacted the region, damaging many buildings and causing a major disruption in the lives of its residents. A brave resident in Nova Iguaçu, Rio de Janeiro, courageously rushed into the swift waters to rescue a woman and her young child from being swept away by the flood. This heroic act allowed the mother and child to escape a life-threatening situation just in time. If you're passionate about dramatic moments in nature and want to stay updated on the latest natural disasters, hit subscribe now so you won't miss any videos. A rare sight unfolded in Portugal when a wine cellar suddenly burst, creating a river of wine that flowed through the streets. Thousands of liters of red wine spilled out, staining the road and leaving the local residents in awe and disbelief. Severe flooding is wreaking havoc in Pakistan, sweeping away homes, possessions, and leaving many families in dire straits. The international community must come together to offer support and prayers for those affected by this devastating disaster. The breathtaking height combined with the powerful rushing water creates a scene that is both magnificent and terrifying. A single misstep could result in everything being swept away in an instant. Would you dare to stand near the edge of this precipice? The violent flood arrived like a giant monster, swallowing everything in its path. The raging waters swept away homes, vehicles, and even ancient trees. The destructive force of nature is truly terrifying. Have you ever witnessed a flood as horrifying as this one? This powerful storm unleashed its fury like a colossal beast, relentlessly chasing the car down the flooded road. The howling winds knocked everything in its path, while the thick downpour reduced visibility to almost nothing. The tiny vehicle seemed to be fighting a desperate battle against the wrath of nature. The floodwaters surged through the streets, sweeping away everything in its path. People scrambled to find shelter as the water continued to rise. This terrifying flood turned the streets into rivers, drowning homes and vehicles alike.